But we should probably move on now to the next topic, which
Yeah.
I watched one of these last night, and it was really
Snuff film?
subpar. What did you say?
Don't worry.
I'm sorry what you said, but sure. Just throwing me off. But anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
So anyway, it was really subpar, and then it was a Netflix original horror movie, and then I started thinking about Netflix originals and how, like, I would say like 90% of the ones I've watched aren't good. But it's not ones that are only published by Netflix. I'm talking about anything just with the tag. I mean, other people can make Netflix originals that weren't Netflix, but if it's exclusive to them, they will call it a Netflix original as well. And it was a horror movie with the guy from 13 Reasons Why. It was really recent, and it was okay right up until the end. They didn't answer a single question of what was going on. It was just a really lazy script and really lazy writing. But I just started thinking about it and thought, there aren't actually many Netflix originals that I've liked. There are some that are
Really?
phenomenal, but most of them that I've watched, at least, just aren't very good. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Netflix originals.
Yeah, so, yeah, like you said, Netflix originals doesn't have to actually be them, but the ones that I've known that Netflix actually have produced themselves, I've been relatively, like, okay with. But then again, ones that they haven't done, like, such as House of Cards, isn't them, but it's a very good show. I very much enjoy that. A lot of twists and turns. One recently, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. That is a cracker. There are some hilarious
That's
jokes.
the Jerry Seinfeld one, right?
That is, exactly. In every episode, he has a new comedic person, and they drive a new different car, like something really cool, something, like a old Chevy or something. And it's really interesting because not only is it like jokes of them bouncing off each other, but like they actually go into like their life growing up, how like they became, blah blah blah. There's really no boundaries. You never know. Like they turn up to like some rich people's houses sometimes, and other times it's just them, literally just the drive, get the coffee in the drive, and go back. So
Yeah.
that's like
I
one
mean-
that is really being good by them recently.
I should watch a bit more of that. I've watched a little bit of the first episode and it was looking alright, but then my friends and I changed what we were watching. Jerry Seinfeld for me can be hit and miss. Some things he says are funny. I like the show Seinfeld. I reckon that's pretty good. But then I've watched a bit of his stand-up. Wasn't really a fan either. But depending on who he has on, I'd probably really be into the show. It looks like he drives some nice cars around too. So
Oh yeah.
I can dig it. I'm not much of a. I was about to say audio head, but that's not right. It's an automobile head or auto
I
head.
am an
But,
audio head. I
I'm not
drive
really
a
one of
car.
either. But I'm an audio head. But yeah, that seems like something I could probably get into. Apparently, Jay Leno has a ton of cars as well, like one of the biggest collections in America. But yeah,
Interesting little
that
fact there,
sounds like
yeah.
something I'd get into. Yeah.
But yeah, like with Netflix originals, there's so many of them now that like marred in amongst them are these ones that you'd probably cringe and not really like would be most people to be wanting to watching, but there are gems that they've picked up as Netflix originals that are scattered amongst, and ones that you could probably argue are like some of the best shows like I've ever watched, such as like Arrested Development. That is one that I've watched twice through now, and my
Phenomenal.
god, is it funny. But then again,
Yeah.
then you'll see someone who did like the new Death Note, and it's kind of the worst thing I've ever seen existed. It's
That's
it's
right.
those stark contrasts.
Yeah. So, I don't know how.
But yeah, so
Death Note is.
Like, I'm just out.
gonna go on a little bit of a. Oh, sorry.
you go. I'm ready for
okay.
this. I'll sit back.
I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here. Okay.
It's
so
bread
Death
time.
Note-
It's bread time.
It's red time! Alright. Death Note is something that you can easily do, not as a movie. It doesn't lend itself well to a movie, but I reckon you could make it into an awesome live-action TV series, whether you adapt the original storyline or not. It's such a cool concept. And in the anime, they lay ground rules that other people can use a Death Note, so you could have done an original story as well. That would have been cool. And that's originally what I thought it was going to be. So when I heard about it, I was like, I'm so down for this. If they get people like who make Daredevil, which is a really good, gritty adaptation series, Death Note could have been unreal. And then they just made, like, this complete utter shit. Like, I don't know how someone didn't look at this movie while they're making it, or look at the script and be like, that's good.
This is gonna sell. This is the next big thing right here. You see this? This is the next big thing. Tony, why we not funding this? Tony, come in here. You already did that nothing? You wanna come in there,
I'm
Tony?
walking here.
No, I'm walking here. See, yeah. Also, very Italian crime boss. Sync gets some pass through. Sorry, just a little another side
Hey,
note.
Tony, I ran out of paper. I have to write the script for this movie on this slice of pizza, huh? And that's why I'm
Jeez,
so
we're getting
bad.
to some crazy stereotype adaptations there between the two of us. Deepest condolences and apologies for that. But yeah, no, it's something that had the potential to be really great, but was like just mangled and destroyed for the two people that have actually watched the anime when it came out.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. They could have made it so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like we'll move on from that because I know that there'll be a triggered conversation for a long time. I listed two things: one that I really love and one that I hate on Netflix. As Netflix original, sorry. What are two that, or one that you love and one that you hate on Netflix at the moment? If you can remember off the top of your head, or if you need a list, look, we can be a bit leeway here.
Oh yeah, no, there are tons of both for me. So ones that I love, the ones that stick out to me most that I love are probably Daredevil season 1 and 2. Everything else apart from bloody The Punisher, that's Marvel, isn't good. That's on Netflix, but Daredevil is a standout. That's great.
Yep.
And then yeah, so The Punisher I also really like. Stranger Things is awesome. I still haven't finished season 2. I don't know why, but I haven't. But I really like that as well. So those are 3 very strong Netflix originals. Oh, as well as Seven Deadly Sins. That's pretty good too. They didn't make that, but it counts as a Netflix original.
It does.
It does because it's not available on any other service. So if you look at Seven Deadly Sins, it's put across as a Netflix original.
Yes.
And they're the ones. Well, they didn't make the show, but they made the English dub and English adaptation and translations and stuff. Netflix as a company did that.
Yeah.
But they didn't make the original, if that makes sense.
At least they put a little bit into it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I like that as well, except for the new OVAs that they put out. They suck. But then things that I hate. Oh, okay. So there's this show. It's called, I think it was The Keepers. And it starts out, it's a documentary series that's about this teacher at a Catholic school who was also a nun who died mysteriously. And then there are a bunch of people connected to this murder. Most of them, one of the suspects, there's a key suspect that they look at throughout the series. There are a lot of them. There's one key guy. Who was a rapist priest at this school. So they thought that he was the guy who did it. He'd threatened the lady and stuff like that. And I won't spoil it because a lot of the first few episodes are good. You should probably watch those. But the end of the series comes and then they're like, oh, and by the way, we still don't really know who did it. No one was ever convicted. It's like, I think
what
it's
a cop-out.
I think it's 12 one-hour episodes. So that's 12 hours of my time that you get the whole way through. It's like, yeah, no, we don't know who did it. No one knows. It's a cold case. It's like, oh.
It's like the
you could have told me that at the beginning. But,
the Stephen King book, The Tower, where he's even said himself he's terrible at writing endings. So when they got to the end, he got to the Dark Tower of this amazing story where you go through woe and ruin and like ups and downs, and it's you open the door and it starts the first line of the like start of the book, and so it just loops around. Oh. It's just like. I can't convey how disappointed I am that this fucking just loops. I wanted to know what's in here.
Yeah, that's it. Like you spend a lot of time with it for no payoff at all. But yeah, so The Keepers is that to me. Sounds like I shouldn't watch the Dark Tower movie then, because I haven't seen that yet. But if that's how it goes, then I won't bother.
I'm not sure if the movie's like that, but that's how the book was. But yeah, also Netflix, they get a couple of great ones, such as, I don't know if you've actually watched it, but the Michael Bolton Big Sexy Valentine's Day special. My God.
I didn't know that existed.
My God.
Now that I know it does,
so
I want to watch
funny. It. And there's like, things like that most places wouldn't really run because they're big enough they can sustain it. And like, because I got a cult following because it's just so absurd, but they're like funny and like unique like comedy things. I'm just glad they do things like that. And so that's another one on there that I really like. We've watched a heap of times in this household.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix has totally revitalized the stand-up comedy on TV, like stand-up comedy specials. I mean, they brought Dave Chappelle out from a 10-year hiatus, which is amazing, because I've watched all of his, like, he did 3 specials for Netflix in a row, and I've watched all of them, and those are the ones that he's made since his 10-year break. They're all really good as well.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there's a bunch of comedians, a lot that I hate, too, that are on there. But, yeah, they definitely revitalized the stand-up comedy scene, because usually you'd never hear of them unless you followed a specific comedian and be like, hey, I have a DVD out. They introduced a whole lot more people to stand-up comedy and stuff like that, which is fantastic.
That's it.
But, man, there's just so much shit on there, especially if you go through either the documentary or horror movie sections.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
not a lot that's good.
I mean, there are some great documentaries, don't get me wrong. They've started bringing out some amazing ones that you're just like, this is just gold. I could watch like more episodes of this. Bring me more. But then again, you're like, one I was watching was one about fairy tales. I'm not sure if it's a Netflix original to begin with, but like what about fairy tales? I was like, this is gonna be cool. Like, it's gonna be like myth, lore, folklore, things like that. And it was just like they jumped from each story, not really delving deep into any of it. So you're not really sure if you're on the same like myth at all. Like they just blur into one. And that's an example of one where you lose control of like where the audience thinks you are, so it's shit. But then again, you bring one out such as like the Keith Richards documentary, and he's recounting his like rise with the Eagles, and you're just like, wow, that's that's interesting. Tell me more,
That's
Keith.
pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there are a bunch of weird ones too. Like, there's stuff like After Porn Ends. I always see that. I haven't watched it,
funny.
but I always see that like sitting there in the
We've sat down and
like
watched it.
recommended like documentaries and stuff. One that me and my friends watched, I think it was also a Netflix original, was Virgin Camp or something like that, and that was about this guy who was like a 45-year-old virgin, and he went to a camp that trains you on how to have sex, and like you eventually lose your virginity to the lady that runs it. And she's like this old lady, and you see a few things that you don't really want to see from this old lady. More than a few things.
There's a couple of things trying to be a good documentary.
At the same time, it was really funny. Like it's not meant to be a comedy, but I think the guys who made it were like, yeah, this is pretty easy to laugh at. Like, yeah, so it was entertaining that way, I suppose. And
yeah, I think you can have that one. That's all yours.
Then my housemate Lockie's pants were off. We were like, "What are you doing, mate?" He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." No, that didn't happen.
It did though. It happened.
It happened.
But it did. It did happen.
But yeah, no, there are definitely some interesting ones. Oh no, this one wasn't a Netflix original, but it was like one about religion with Morgan Freeman and all the different religions and how they tackle specific themes and stuff. We watched all of that. That was really good.
Yeah.
But Netflix, they can create some awesome things too, which is good. Like Stranger Things, just an objectively fantastic show. Making a Murderer actually is one that I also really enjoyed. That was probably the first Netflix original that I really binged, I think. Like, they weren't too common back then. But yeah, that's a fantastic doco. But then they make movies. I haven't watched it yet. I've watched the first like 20 minutes, which I enjoyed. But they make movies like Bright. Have you watched it?
No, I've not heard anything good about it yet. And
yeah,
so
I'm in the same boat.
Don't think that I really want to spend time, because I don't watch enough movies and TV shows as it is now. So I don't really want to sit down and kind of commit to something that is meant to be terrible to try and validate it to myself, when I could be watching something that I know by a lot of people is good. Like, it's never always going to be 100% good if someone says it's bad, or 100% bad if someone says it's good, or something like that. You don't know. But usually, the general public can't be wrong, except for Star Wars. Except for Star Wars.
What do you mean, except for Star Wars? You saying Star Wars is bad, Ben?
Oh, the latest one wasn't great.
Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't really bad either, but it definitely wasn't great. Anyway, we already had a whole podcast about that.
Oh, yeah.
So I won't get back into that.
I know exactly. But yeah.
If you want to know our Last Jedi thoughts, go back a few episodes. It should be on YouTube somewhere.
It's just awful. The episode, not the thing. That's not debating.
The episode wasn't awful. But,
there was a lot of arguing. I think it was great.
Yeah, no, so Bright, I watched the first 20 minutes or so, which I actually enjoyed. But then all my friends were like, oh, it's really late, we got to work tomorrow, we'll go home. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll watch it another time. And then I never did. But I enjoyed the first 20 minutes. It probably just gets really shit from there, but it's pretty much just Will Smith being like, hey, I'm Will Smith. I'm a hit of fairy. My mate's an orc. Yeah, I'm Will Smith. And then the
really
orc
cool,
was
trailer,
like,
though.
I'm
sad.
victimized. But yeah, it looks like it was going to be really cool. It copped a lot of flack as well because Max Landis, the guy who wrote it, had a lot of sexual assault allegations pop up about him as soon as that movie released.
I see.
So I think that turned a lot of people off it as well, which is a shame because Max Landis is a writer that I've always followed and really looked up to.
Yeah.
So that was a right shame. So if all that stuff is true, that's a right bummer. But yeah, Bright, not great apparently, and that's one of their biggest budget things, and it looks like that's what Netflix really wants to get into eventually, which is having everything as a Netflix original and just producing high budget, like, quality stuff.
Well, that's evident from the fact that, like, they're going to bring out Bright too. Like, it's already in production. Like, they've got the budget and they're set to do it again. So, like, that really validates like your point there.
That's right, and that's not if that's what Netflix does, and they make it 100% original. Like that's kind of the word on the street of what it's going to end up being. I probably won't keep my subscription. I mean, I like all the other stuff that I get on there that isn't made by them. Like, I really like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Rick and Morty, or I can go back and watch all of the IT Crowd or the In-Betweeners, and like all fantastic stuff that's just easy to binge that isn't made by them. That's generally better than the stuff that they make.
Yeah, no, I can like dig that for most of the time.
Yeah. And then you've got stuff like Stan. I don't know if you have a Stan account, but man, they have some quality stuff on there too. I'm starting to dig Stan more and more.
They've got a lot of TV shows. So many TV shows. That's the thing that like really kicks it for us. Like, because we've got one in like my roommate pays for it, and we often watch it out together in the lounge room, and then sometimes I can always watch it and I can sneak and watch some Black Sails in my room. But yeah, no, lots of good shows on there. Things like South Park as well, where you can just binge watch thousands of episodes and you're just like, amazing.
South Park and Community and stuff like that, like easy watchings. And then they have a lot of shows that, not all of them are originals, but they're exclusive to Stan, like Preacher. I've just started getting into that. That's pretty good. I don't know if you've watched Preacher.
No, I've heard of it though.
And then one that I watched the first episode for yesterday that my housemate Lockie recommended was called Romper Stomper, which is...
we watched that.
You watched that? Yeah. I've really enjoyed... I enjoyed the first episode of that. I need to watch the rest. But I really enjoy stuff like that too. And a lot of that is stuff that I wouldn't have watched otherwise because I wouldn't have heard of it. Like they have some good stuff on there. Great movie collections. They've got Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I tell you, anything that has Avatar: The Last Airbender is fantastic.
What about the movie?
That show is phenomenal.
The live-action movie.
What movie?
Exactly. Good answer.
That and Indiana Jones 4 are just bad dreams everyone had, I'm telling you.
Never happened.
Don't exist.
Never. There's no evidence. Happened. Look it up on the instant. Nothing comes up.
And Death Note and Dragon Ball Evolution. But
we could keep going. And some of the Mortal Kombat movies they've made before.
Did you just say multi-combat?
Mortal Kombat. Could have said multi.
Oh, Mortal Kombat. Past me. I haven't seen any of those. Actually, total derail. Beep. But I don't know if you saw a trailer came out today for Japan's live-action version of Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh no!
Boy, does it look bad!
Oh yeah, I bet it does.
This looks like it could be the movie to dethrone The Last Airbender as the worst anime adaptation.
Yep. Oh, I think so. Oof. I mean, Death Note's already done that in my books, I think.
I think Death Note is better than The Last Airbender. Not by much, but I do think it's better.
They're on par. They've got that shit title.
They're just bad. But they're just in the shit tier that isn't the good kind of shit tier. Like, the good shit tier is stuff like The Room where you can watch and it's funny.
It's meant to be bad and funny, yeah.
Yeah. Or sometimes they're not even meant to be bad, but it's just funny. And then you've just got stuff like that. It's like, thanks.
Who thought this was going to be a good idea? Did you go to the Italians again? I told you not to.
Hey, Tony, let's make another shitty movie, huh?
They'll fund anything. They don't have a filter.
I heard there's a movie about a kid with an arrow on his head. Let's chuck him in there and not write a script, huh?
We'll just get this kid and we'll put him in a room just like he was in the ice for thousands of years. We'll put him in a room on his own and we'll make him act.
Let's just get some Year 8 kids' creative English exam, creative writing piece, huh? We'll just throw that in.
I can tell you, if someone got one of my creative writing pieces for any of my like HSC things, then it would genuinely be worse than The Last Airbender. Because boy, were they bad.
Mine were pretty bad too. It was just all you'd write would just be like, so the fact that the room was red reflected my character's anger.
That's a weird creative writing piece. You sure you're not doing the essay part in the creative writing area?
I always just got it mixed up. That's why I failed English. No, English was the one subject.
Me failed English, that's impossible.
Okay, but me failed English, that's impossible. But yeah, oh man, like there's just some shit out there.
Good attempts, but I know I couldn't do better, but not great.
I don't know,
just
like
not great.
If I were a director or writer and I did something like The Last Airbender,
and then you watched it back at the
end.
You just like, oh no, what have I made? Scrap all of it. I
probably shouldn't have been high on coke the whole time.
Finally, when you come down, it's the release day, and you're sitting in the theater. Everyone's congratulating you, shaking hands, and you're finally clean. You come down from that euphoric sense of making this movie that's going to make you the next big thing, and then the credits of the start of the movie come, and the voiceovers, and it opens up, and then You open up because you're crying because it's so awful, and you realise your career's just gonna die, and so you go straight back to the coke. It's a vicious cycle. Then you make Death Note years later.
Oh boy, here I am snorting again. but yeah, no, like I would do, if I were like a director of one of these crappy movies, I would do what some authors do and just make up a pen name, like on my official Twitter in my name. I'd just be like, hey, I left this project. Whatever happens next wasn't me. Wink, wink. And then I'd just put down like a pen name, a fake name. Or I'd say it was Steven Spielberg and throw him under the bus.
Hello, I am John Applebottom, and I directed this movie. Sam Nicholson, never heard of him.
Hey, my name's Fat Tony, huh? I directed the movie.
They stopped people stopped coming to them because they knew that they funded bad ideas, so they went to themselves and they actually took creative writing pieces and they produced the movies themselves instead of just funding them.
We run a pizza shop. Why do we keep making our movies?
Tony, goddammit, you back to the film into the pizza again.
I'm writing here.
Oh no,
Oh,
too much cultural appropriation for my taste for now.
Oh, it's all light-hearted and in good spirit.
Always.
Always. But on the topic of